back with another reaction video on this crazy ass story. Son sacrificed his mother for life insurance just to live the lavish life. This story was a long time ago, man. It happened in Chicago. The shit shocked the city. The shit was crazy. It was out the blue. We don't know what the fuck this man was thinking, but the police saw it. But I never knew the real details of this story. So we finna get into the details. Thanks to all my supporters, subscribers. Go hit the like button, put your notification on. You know what it is. Let's tune in, man. Shit crazy.
When you've been dreaming of the high life, the promise of money and fame can be intoxicating.
She was aspiring to be a model and an actress. He portrayed himself as being this actor and this rapper that was giving back to the community. She was totally just obsessed with him.
But if it's all a facade, where do you run to when the avalanche starts?
This case was about greed. This case was about someone who was portraying himself to live a lifestyle that they definitely couldn't afford.
Crazy.
After a single decision snowballs into the ultimate consequence, who pays for the destruction that ensues?
He didn't want to get his
What y'all
hands dirty.
think, chat?
After it happened, he ended up ghosting her. She let her love for man get in the way of good and evil.
It's a time that she'll never ever get back, and it's all because she decided to help her man.
There are hundreds of thousands of women in prison at any given time in the U.S. These are the true stories of women who committed heinous crimes in the name of love. September 2nd, 2012, Chicago, Illinois. The windy city is quiet as the early morning hours creep by.
Chicago is a beautiful, world-class city. It's a gem right along Lake Michigan.
It's a continuously thriving melting pot of great people, great food, great attractions.
But as the sun begins to rise over Lake Michigan, the day takes a sinister turn.
911 operators received a frantic call from 35-year-old Randall Davis. He said an intruder broke into his girlfriend's condo and shot her. He would cry out for someone to come to the apartment to help.
Police race to the luxury apartment building in the city's upscale North Side neighborhood.
The fact that this crime happened in this neighborhood is quite shocking.
It's not known for its crime. This is an area where people go to escape crime.
Inside the apartment, police make contact with the 911 caller,
So
Randall
weird, chat.
Davis, who appears to have been attacked himself.
He had to sustain large lacerations to his head.
The injuries suffered by his girlfriend, Yolanda Holmes, appear to be much more severe.
They see Yolanda's body in a pool of blood. She was dead. She sustained multiple wounds to the chest. It's clear Yolanda's death was beyond violent. It looked like she suffered a horrific death.
Yolanda Holmes was a vivacious 45-year-old who never met a stranger and worked hard to become a successful business owner.
Chat.
Yolanda owned a local hair salon where you not only could just get regular services, but people came to talk, hang out, have fun.
While Yolanda was deeply rooted in her community, everyone knew her 24-year-old son was number one in her life.
Her son, Qaw'mane Wilson, That was her prize, that was her joy.
Qaw'mane, or Young QC, was an emerging rapper in Chicago.
He was charismatic, young, good-looking.
Yolanda supported all his creative efforts and really believed in what he could do with his craft.
She was essentially helping to fund his budding music career until he could make it on top.
Crazy, and you want to kill your OG.
But now,
Sick.
Yolanda Holmes is lying dead in her apartment. How could something so tragic and horrendous happen to such a beautiful, vibrant, and loving person? When homicide detectives arrived, they immediately turned to Yolanda's boyfriend, Randall Davis, for answers. He explained that it all started around 4:40 that morning.
According to Randall, he and Yolanda had just fell asleep, and next thing you know, he heard gunshots.
Sick.
That's when he saw the gunman standing over Yolanda.
Yolanda's boyfriend described the gunman as a male, African American, approximately 6 feet tall, and about 210 pounds.
According to Randall, he leaped out of the bed and tried to take down the intruder to protect Yolanda. And that's when he was struck over the head by the gun. He claimed he ended up getting knocked unconscious, and then the offender ran out of the house.
Randall says when he regained consciousness a few minutes later, the apartment was covered in blood.
That's when he realized she had been shot, and he called 911.
We asked him who could have done this, and he had no reason why someone would want Yolanda dead.
His only response was, "You're the detectives. You tell me who did this."
As Randall is transferred to the hospital, detectives begin processing the scene for more clues.
I've been on the job 22 years, and I don't think I've ever seen a bloodier crime scene.
Yolanda's bedroom was an absolute mess. There was blood splatter on the wall. There were bullet holes found in her headboard. Gunshot wounds weren't Yolanda's only injuries. Yolanda had been shot in the head and stabbed 4 times in her abdomen. It's clear Yolanda's death was beyond violent. This immediately seems like overkill. Detectives quickly locate what they believe to be one of the murder weapons.
We observed a black revolver that was in pieces on the floor. That could easily happen from firing and exploding, or if it was used to hit somebody, it could fall apart like that.
Detectives don't find the knife used in the crime, but they do discover other curious pieces of evidence.
There was an earbud, a white earbud, that was torn and cut.
There was a stack of money that was on the floor and was covered in blood. $90,000 cash.
If this was a random intruder, it was strange that the assailant didn't take it with them.
And that is what we had to get out of.
90,000 on the
Detectives
bed.
begin to question Randall's account of a mysterious intruder.
We observed the door was in original condition and had not been damaged.
All of the locks were intact, there were no pry marks, there was definitely no signs of forced entry. Did Randall Davis know more about this crime than he was letting on? On September 2nd, 2012, after receiving a panicked 911 call from Randall Davis, Chicago police have discovered the body of his girlfriend, 45-year-old Yolanda Holmes.
I'm telling you.
Randall
this
claims
shit-
an intruder broke in and attacked him. He had suffered a head wound, but Yolanda had been shot in the head and stabbed multiple times in the chest. Investigators are beginning to question whether Randall knows more than he's letting on.
Yolanda's boyfriend's account of the incident had some holes in it.
The only thing that he ever mentioned to us is the fact that Yolanda was shot. But she wasn't just shot, she was shot and she was stabbed to death.
That was odd. and very suspect.
Furthermore, there's no sign of forced entry into the apartment.
Crazy.
All of the locks were intact, there were no pry marks. Something was sketchy, a little fishy. Investigators begin questioning Yolanda's neighbors, hoping to find someone who might have heard or seen anything suspicious. We knocked on every single door and interviewed every single person that lived inside that building. A couple people heard what they thought might have been a gunshot around the time of the murder, but most of those leads didn't really lead us anywhere. Fortunately, though, detectives received word that the apartment complex has surveillance cameras. If there really was this mystery intruder that Randall claimed, then that person would be seen on the footage. Back at the station, the detectives reviewed the surveillance video.
As we continued observing the video, we were shocked.
Camera.
At 4:30 that morning, they do indeed see footage of a man that looked similar to what Randall had described. A black male, approximately 6 feet tall and about 200 pounds.
He was walking up to the front door, nonchalant, like he lived there. And he was holding dry cleaning over his shoulder and a detergent bottle.
But that's not all. He's wearing white earbuds.
That was exciting because in the crime scene, we identified a single white earbud laying in the blood on the floor.
He puts his hands toward the keypad and puts a code in.
Moments later, he was buzzed in.
He enters going directly to the fourth floor, so the person knew exactly where they were going.
We walked up to Yolanda's door and walked in without any force and without any issue.
The suspected gunman remains inside the apartment for approximately 7 minutes.
After he left Yolanda's apartment, he quickly walked down the hall into the stairwell.
Detectives are able to make out another crucial detail in the footage of the man leaving the building.
You can see the single white earbud with a cord hanging in his ear.
The second earbud was clearly missing. The question now is, who let the suspect into the building?
We had to keep
Got his
digging
ass.
to get the truth. Was Yolanda's boyfriend involved? Did he set this up?
Before police can speak with Randall again, they get word that someone has arrived at the station
Yeah,
to
his
talk to
ass.
them.
This is Yolanda's 24-year-old son, Qaw'mane Wilson.
It seemed like he was still in shock.
He was distraught about what happened to his mother. He wanted justice served and was seeking answers.
Qaw'mane tells detectives he has some information that could help aid in the investigation.
He tells detectives that there's one person that has shown violence to his mother in the past, and that person is her boyfriend, Randall Davis.
Qaw'mane does tell detectives that he thought they had broken up recently. According to Qaw'mane, the couple had gotten into a recent argument that had been the last straw for his mother.
Randall and his mother actually got into a fight, which led to Randall breaking the TV. And eventually police were called, and Randall had to leave the apartment.
Yolanda, after that, she didn't press charges, but now that's raising some flags with detectives. Investigators were already suspicious of Randall, and now they hear he has violent tendencies. Detectives asked Qaw'mane, do they believe that Randall could be involved in his mom's murder? And without a shadow of a doubt, Qaw'mane immediately says yes. The next day, after Randall has been released from the hospital, the detectives bring him down to the station for a follow-up interview.
You hear me?
When they ask him about the prior altercation with Yolanda, he has an explanation. Randall tells the police that he had been drinking and that he was jealous of another man. Things just got out of hand.
But he says that him and Yolanda had rekindled their relationship. Since then,
In fact, Randall says on the night Yolanda was killed, she invited him over for a romantic evening.
They had sex and were preparing to go to sleep when Yolanda's phone went off. It was her son, Qaw'mane.
Qaw'mane was asking to come pick up some money from his mother.
Yolanda told Qaw'mane that she would leave the door unlocked for him since she and Randall were going to bed.
But why did Qaw'mane need money so late at night? And did he ever actually go over to retrieve it?
they find it odd that Qaw'mane never mentioned this call. They find it suspicious.
In September of 2012, Chicago investigators are trying to solve the murder of 45-year-old Yolanda Holmes, who was found shot and stabbed in her uptown luxury apartment. Yolanda's boyfriend, Randall Davis, who found Yolanda dead and made the 911 call, has been the main suspect so far.
Even though Yolanda's boyfriend was cooperating with the investigation, a lot of what he said didn't coincide with some of the evidence.
In speaking with Randall, detectives have uncovered a suspicious piece of information about Yolanda's son, Qaw'mane.
Yolanda got a call from Qaw'mane not long before the murder took place.
Qaw'mane asked Yolanda if he could come over that morning to get some cash from her.
Yolanda left the door open for Qaw'mane, which could explain how the gunman got into the apartment.
Detectives were wondering why hadn't Qaw'mane told them about this call initially when they first spoke with him.
Detectives attempt to contact Qaw'mane several times to see if he has an explanation, but they get no response.
Over the following days, detectives are still trying to reach out to Qaw'mane, but has not heard back from them.
While Qaw'mane is nowhere to be found around Chicago, his online presence has never been more active.
Since his mother passed, Qaw'mane was seen flaunting his wealth and cars and all of that on social media.
Yeah, I'm playing no games, man. Look, I do this for real.
Yolanda had a bunch of life insurance policies.
Now, the amount of money in those policies was never disclosed, but there was $90,000 that was found inside of Yolanda's apartment, and he was the beneficiary of that money.
To investigators, it doesn't seem like the behavior of a grieving son.
Qaw'mane was coming into a lot of money, and he was not shy at all about spending the money that he was getting and partying around town.
He started looking more and more suspicious to me. What we did next is we did a cell phone study.
When detectives pulled Qaw'mane's phone records, they were able to verify the call that Randall had mentioned.
Qaw'mane also made several other phone calls around the time of his mother's murder.
Some of those calls were made to a man named Eugene Spencer, who was familiar to police.
Eugene Spencer had a rap sheet, but very minor stuff. I think he only had like 1 or 2 arrests. He was homeless though, so he wasn't easy to locate.
Detectives also realized that Eugene shared a lot of the physical characteristics of the person that was seen in that surveillance video.
Eugene Spencer isn't the only person Qaw'mane was corresponding with that morning.
Qaw'mane made several phone calls to a woman named Loriana Johnson.
Loriana Johnson is someone police are not familiar with. She had basically no criminal history and definitely wasn't involved in anything like this before.
Got dragged right in.
Who is Loriana Johnson, and can she help them find Qaw'mane and Eugene?
23-year-old Loriana Johnson was a beautiful Chicago native, focusing on a budding career.
She was aspiring to be a model and an actress.
She was also a young mom who was trying her best to make ends meet. She worked at a hair supply store, but she was waiting for her big break.
She was a tiny, petite little thing.
It was on a modeling gig that she first laid eyes on 24-year-old Qaw'mane Wilson.
Loriana was there for a photo shoot, but Qaw'mane was there as an up-and-coming artist.
Qaw'mane was a young and aspiring rapper who went by the name of Young QC.
Qaw'mane looked every bit the part of the next big thing.
He portrayed himself as being this rapper that was giving back to the community. Loriana was definitely impressed by that.
Loriana was starstruck by Qaw'mane, his rapping, his charisma, and his local fame.
When Loriana became Qaw'mane's girl, she finally got a taste of the high life she always dreamed of.
Qaw'mane would have nights on the town with her, give her lavish gifts.
She was impressed by his lifestyle. He appeared to have a lot of money. She liked the fact that he got all this attention, that he had a pretty big following. She was totally just obsessed with Qaw'mane.
But behind all that cash was a dark secret.
She was naive, believing that Qaw'mane was this successful rapper. In reality, most of the money that Qaw'mane saw came from his mother and her successful hair salon.
I know he regret that shit.
Now, Chicago detectives are hoping Loriana can help them track down Qaw'mane and unravel what really happened on the night of his mother's untimely death.
Detectives want to speak to her and Eugene Spencer ASAP.
Before they can, they receive the call they've been waiting for.
Officers call me and let me know that Qaw'mane Wilson was part of a traffic stop. He told the officers that he was looking to talk to me about his mom's investigation.
Yeah, I know it. That's
September 2012, Chicago, Illinois. Local homicide detectives are becoming more and more suspicious of 24-year-old Qaw'mane Wilson regarding the death of his mother, Yolanda Holmes.
Detectives have learned that Qaw'mane had made a phone call to his mom asking for money before her brutal murder.
Since her death, he had been flaunting all of the money he had inherited from her all over social media.
On top of that, it seemed that he had been evading law enforcement.
After learning that Qaw'mane made several calls to his girlfriend, Loriana Johnson, and another man, Eugene Spencer, around the time of the murder, detectives are eager to speak with them. But then, they get the news they've been waiting for.
Officers call me and let me know that Qaw'mane Wilson was part of a traffic stop, and he told the officers that he was looking to talk to me about his mom's investigation. So I said, transport him into the station and we'll talk about his mom's case.
When detectives finally sit down with Qaw'mane, they ask him where he's been.
Qaw'mane tells him he's actually been trying to get in contact with them.
Detectives question Qaw'mane about Eugene Spencer, the man he placed several calls to around the time of the murder, and a dead ringer for the man seen in the surveillance video.
Qaw'mane admits to knowing Eugene, but he said it's only because Eugene used to live above him at his old apartment.
Detectives asked Qaw'mane what he and Spencer were talking about the morning of the murder. And Qaw'mane says that he does not remember.
Why would Qaw'mane be having all these phone calls with someone he claims is just an old neighbor, and now he can't even remember what they talked about?
When detectives show Qaw'mane a screenshot from the surveillance footage, he's much more forthcoming.
He was pretty quiet, but then he finally says, "You already know who that is. That's Boo." And Boo was the nickname that Eugene Spencer used. So he tells me that Eugene Spencer is the person who went inside the house and killed his mother.
We were shocked. That changed everything.
Qaw'mane, he looks down and looks defeated almost, and he tells investigators that this was supposed to be a robbery.
Qaw'mane tells detectives that it was all Eugene's idea. Eugene wanted to rob his mother because she was rich.
Man, what
He
the
basically
fuck?
says that he feared for his safety. He was afraid of Boo, Eugene Spencer.
According to Qaw'mane, his girlfriend, Loriana Johnson, was also in on the plan.
Loriana was the getaway driver.
She provided the transportation
Come on,
for
Jack.
Eugene to and from Yolanda's apartment.
Shit's crazy.
Qaw'mane insists that he loved his mother and never would have harmed her on purpose.
He said that he was just supposed to go inside and get money. He had no idea that Eugene would end up killing Yolanda Holmes.
Is Qaw'mane telling the truth?
He is the only one who has anything substantial to gain from this murder.
That shit fucked up.
All of her life insurance policies and remaining assets were awarded to Qaw'mane. Detectives wanted to speak with Loriana and Eugene to see if their stories lined up with what Qaw'mane was claiming.
Although tracking down Eugene is still proving difficult, police are quickly able to locate Loriana Johnson and bring her in for questioning.
Loriana was very polite. She was very quiet. She wasn't very forthcoming initially.
She denied even knowing anything about the murder.
How do you not know that your boyfriend's mother was killed?
With added pressure from detectives, Loriana changes her tune.
So after further questioning, Loriana admits that she does know about the murder, and she was even at Yolanda's funeral.
Damn.
But Qaw'mane told her that whoever killed Yolanda was in custody and had already confessed the crime.
Loriana insists that she had nothing to do with his mother's murder.
That's when detectives reveal what Qaw'mane has already told them.
Police reveal to Loriana that Qaw'mane already has implicated her in the crime and already told them that she was the getaway driver.
Loriana is stunned finding out that Qaw'mane would say all of this about her.
As time went on, she realized that she couldn't lie to protect Qaw'mane anymore, and little by little bits of information came out about exactly what happened.
Loriana admits that on September 1st, 2012, Qaw'mane asked her to come over when she got off work.
When she arrived, Qaw'mane introduced her to Eugene Spencer.
Eventually, Qaw'mane took Loriana into his bedroom where the two had sex. Loriana didn't know what Eugene was doing during that time. But when they emerged from the bedroom, he was still at the apartment.
At that point, Eugene asked Loriana to give him a ride to the north side. Eugene also offered to give Loriana $30 for gas money.
Loriana agreed to take Eugene to where he needed to go. But she says she never could have anticipated where that ride would really take her.
There was this awful smell coming from him. It smelled like death.
Chicago, Illinois.
Crazy.
Detectives are interrogating Loriana Johnson regarding her role in the murder of her boyfriend's mother, 45-year-old Yolanda Holmes.
So young.
She admits that she agreed to drive Qaw'mane's friend Eugene to Chicago's north side. But she thought it was just to run an errand, not to commit murder.
Well, Loriana says when it was time to get in the car, Eugene got in the back seat, which she found odd, but she didn't think much of it.
When he got into the car, he had a duffel bag with some clothes and some hangers on them. She said that they were silent for most of the drive.
When they arrived at their destination, Eugene told her that he just needed to drop some things off and he'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Just 10 minutes later, Eugene came running back to the car.
He was out of breath. Something seemed a bit off.
She smelled this horrible smell coming from him that she had never smelled before. She told investigators that she tried to ask Eugene about the smell, but he just told her to drive. She did what she was told.
Once they made it several blocks away, Eugene told Loriana to let him out of the car. And she says she hasn't seen him since.
Was Loriana Johnson really as unsuspecting as she claims?
Qaw'mane had already told police that Loriana knew Eugene was going there to rob Yolanda.
I didn't believe Loriana at all. She knew that she was waiting outside as a getaway driver. She knew afterwards that Qaw'mane's mother was dead, and it was completely unreasonable to believe that she didn't put all of this together.
Before detectives can press her for answers, they receive news that Eugene Spencer has finally been taken into custody.
So detectives decide to keep Loriana in holding while they go and question Eugene.
Detectives are surprised that immediately Eugene confesses in his role in the murder.
Yeah.
Eugene admits that Qaw'mane was the mastermind of this, and Loriana was more involved than she was letting on. He says Qaw'mane's motive was to collect the 2 life insurance policies on Yolanda.
This case was about greed. This case was about someone who was portraying himself to live a lifestyle that they definitely couldn't afford. And he would have gone to any means to obtain this lifestyle. And what he did is he brought someone else along for the ride with him, which was Loriana.
The plan was for Loriana to drive Eugene to Yolanda's condo, and he was supposed to shoot her.
He and Qaw'mane were on the phone, and Qaw'mane was giving him instructions on how to get into the building. When he made his way into Yolanda's bedroom, he was met with the surprise that none of them had anticipated. Randall Davis.
He wasn't expecting someone else to be inside the house.
Eugene says that he was eventually able to knock Randall out.
At that point is when Eugene called Qaw'mane to tell him what had happened.
And Qaw'mane said, make sure that he's dead.
He went and got a knife out of the kitchen and stabbed Yolanda
Hey.
3 or 4 times just to make sure that she was gone.
What y'all think, chat? Motherfucker sick, man.
When Eugene returned to
Hit
the
on his
car,
mama.
he was covered in blood.
He says that he wrapped the murder knife in some clothing and then gave it to Loriana for safekeeping before they sped away.
Qaw'mane promised him $4,200, and to this day, he only received $70 for payment.
Damn.
After speaking with Eugene Spencer,
What?
detectives they were more confident that Qaw'mane was the actual mastermind and Loriana Johnson was a co-conspirator.
With Eugene Spencer's statement in tow, detectives confront Loriana once again.
Loriana now changes her story.
She says that she knew that they were planning something, but she thought it was just a robbery. On September 2nd, Qaw'mane told her that she needed to bring a gun that he had hidden at her place to his apartment. Once she arrived at the apartment, Qaw'mane asked her to drive Eugene to the north side. She saw Qaw'mane wiping down the gun as well as the bullets.
She agreed to help her man. She agreed to drive someone that she barely knew to the apartment building. She never knew that the victim was going to be Qaw'mane's mother.
Loriana tells detectives that she really was shocked when Eugene returned to the car, smelling like death.
She now admits that she called Qaw'mane and asked him, well, what's going on with Eugene?
Eugene starts chiming in from the back saying, I shot her, but the gun jammed, so I had to get a knife.
Loriana denies ever seeing the knife in question and that Eugene never gave her the knife.
Shit crazy.
Loriana also tells detectives that following the murder, her loyalty to Qaw'mane didn't get her very far.
Qaw'mane started ghosting her and ignoring her calls.
Qaw'mane was dating other people. She still would see him on occasion, but they definitely were not in a serious relationship per her after the murder.
With the confession, investigators have enough to charge Qaw'mane, Eugene, and Loriana with first-degree murder.
The fact that she admitted to driving Eugene Spencer and participating in what she believed to be an armed robbery, and someone died as a result of what occurred, she is still liable for what we call in Illinois is felony murder.
Prosecutors knew that in order to convict Qaw'mane, Loriana had to be a star witness.
Can investigators work out a deal with Loriana and convince her to testify against her man?
He sent her out to do the dirty work for him.
If she doesn't take the deal, she can spend the rest of her life behind bars.
Chicago, Illinois. Investigators are preparing to offer 23-year-old murder suspect Loriana Johnson a plea deal if she agrees to testify against her man at trial.
Police believe Qaw'mane Wilson was the mastermind behind his mother's murder. But Loriana also faces first-degree murder charges because she served as the getaway driver.
Damn.
However, if Loriana agrees to take the deal, her charges will be lessened to armed robbery.
If she doesn't take the deal, she can spend the rest of her life behind bars.
We let her know that Qaw'mane basically set her out to dry. He sent her out to do the dirty work for him, and he figured that he wouldn't be liable for anything that they did.
After it happened, he ended up ghosting her.
They tell Loriana it's time that she put her best interests first.
To investigators' relief, Loriana decides to take the deal.
Loriana agreed to testify against Qaw'mane Wilson in exchange for a plea deal, which allowed her to be sentenced to just 14 years.
In March 2019, Qaw'mane gets his day in court.
Qaw'mane Wilson is on trial for first-degree murder, and the prosecution's star witness against him is Loriana. Loriana admitted Qaw'mane was the mastermind to this whole murder of his mother. He provided the weapons, and he provided information to Eugene and Loriana of how to gain entry into his mother's residence.
Prosecutors tell the jury that Qaw'mane's motive was to collect the 2 life insurance policies on Yolanda, and that Qaw'mane was the beneficiary of the $90,000 that was in Yolanda's home.
Qaw'mane didn't want to get his hands dirty, but he wanted to make sure his mother was dead.
How can you do your mama like that, boy?
After a 4-day trial, the jury reaches a decision.
It only took them 2 hours to convict Qaw'mane of first-degree murder, home invasion, and attempted murder.
Qaw'mane Wilson was sentenced to 99 years in prison.
Clock is
A day later, Eugene Spencer is dealt a similar fate.
At his trial, Eugene was found guilty and convicted of the same 3 charges Qaw'mane faced, but he was given 100 years in prison.
The fact that Qaw'mane would have his own mother killed in such a brutal fashion is still a bitter pill to swallow for those that loved Yolanda.
This case was especially sad because the true killer here, Qaw'mane Wilson, was raised with a family that loved him and wanted only the best for him.
Stupid.
Yolanda gave him everything that she possibly could. There is no reason for this to have happened.
How tragic is this that the one person that she loved is the person who paid someone $70 to brutally murder her.
For $70.
Loriana Johnson is released on parole in 2020.
With time served and Illinois' day served equals day credit policy, Loriana only has to serve 7 years out of her 14-year sentence.
Despite getting out early, this is still 7 years This is time she'll never get back with her kids. And it's all because she decided to help her man.
And she's still tied in with them people.
This is a cautionary tale. She could have had a much better life had she not been so obsessed with Qaw'mane Wilson.
Loriana Johnson was a young, beautiful, smart girl who let her emotions and love for her man get in the way of good and evil.
Love is a powerful drug. In this case, it was deadly.
Love can feel like an avalanche, but in the wake of an avalanche is total destruction. Shattered lives, lifelong scars that will never fade, and sometimes a woman left holding the bag, wondering where it all went wrong.
Hey, so you already know, man, that was that shit, that crazy story. That was the details to that crazy story, man. If it's some other details, I ain't see it, but that's the details of that. I ain't even know his girlfriend played a part. Man, and another guy, he paid $70. $70 to kill your mama? $70, bro. Hey, man, this shit, man, it's complicated, man. But thanks for every motherfucker tuning in, man. It's your boy Mo Money. You already know, man. I'll be back, man. Go get the money.